Joining me now via Skype to discuss much more on this, I have economist Michael Ila. Good to have you on the Breakfast Show this morning. Hello, Michael, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, David. Good morning.
Now, considering the size of Nigeria's debt stock, this is 32.29 trillion naira, much bigger than the size of our GDP or what we even generate as a country, not just by one, but two, almost three times the size of our GDP at this point in time. Now, the biggest concern for so many Nigerians and economies alike is the fact that we don't necessarily see these investments of funds borrowed translate to strong or aggressive infrastructural development or get into the masses. What do you make of this?
Well, thank you, David, again. I think we should tread with caution in terms of accumulating debt. Debt in itself is a necessary component of growth, especially in developing economies like Nigeria. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure that there's a match between the reasons for which the funds are procured and actual development that strikes that people can relate with. The fear for Nigeria now is the fact that we are borrowing, and it seems we are borrowing for frivolities. We are borrowing for recurrent expenditures, and we are borrowing to fund our lifestyles. These are not the reasons for which one should put the future of a country in jeopardy because of to maintain lifestyles maybe of politicians, that is why. If we are developing, the government has made a note of always telling us that we are using these funds for critical infrastructure. Much of it is true, but at the same time you have to double check. Somebody said you should measure twice and cut once. Before we take these loans, we should be sure that the things for which we have earmarked them, they are actually the things that the economy needs to reflect and be in better position.
Let's now also look at cautions from the World Trade Organization. We've also had some responses from the International Monetary Fund as well as the World Bank. The caution here is the mode of repayment. At the end of the day, even we had the visit of Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala also raising cautions as to how we intend to repay some of our debt. Now, why is this a big concern at this point in time? Well, it's simply because we have the COVID-19 pandemic we are still reeling out of, with vaccine deployment is still not at the level we expect. So it's a big task for government now. How do you think we can meander or maneuver through this?
Well, I think the alarms from the international organizations, WTO, World Bank, and the rest of it is called for because there's actually nothing new under the sun, as we say. They have seen different economies. Whatever it is that you are measures that you are putting in place for your economy, people have tried it somewhere else. It's either it has worked or it has not worked. So if they are telling us, because we depend on them, because we need them as partners, we have to listen to them. Unless we believe that we have a superior argument. But with time, in under 5-10 years, everybody will find out whether they were telling us the truth or not. But we also have economists here in the country. We have the global institutions. We should listen to them. By the time we are taking debt, people are saying, okay, what we have taken is still less than 5% of our GDP. Some countries have up to 90% of their GDP in external debt and the rest of it. But it's not about the GDP. It's about the revenue coming into the country. How much are we raising from taxes? In other climes, even South Africa here, what they are getting from tax as a proportion of their GDP, it's vastly superior to what we are getting. So government has to look for a way to increase the tax. Burdening those who are currently paying tax, because that will become a disincentive. If they look for ways to bring in people who are in the informal sector, bring them to the formal sectors of the economy, then government will have some revenues to play with. And we should also make sure that we deal wholeheartedly with the issue of corruption. Most of these funds are siphoned out, leakages here and there. These are the things that cause non-functionality to whatever debt is being accrued. So if we are able to tackle those things, government can take care for infrastructure. Things for which they take those funds, they are the things that are being used. Somebody made allusion to Kaduna Abuja railway line the other time. The truth is, maybe 5 years operating now. Is it sustainable? Are we getting the funds to even repay the interest portion of the loan that was taken for it?
Michael,
Are we
if I may
getting it
butt
from
in now, if I may
the daily
butt in now.
services of that?
You've made
Okay.
mention of the fact that we need to look at innovative tax collection measures, but considering that we are dealing with almost a triple whammy, looking at our unemployment rate, also looking at the fact that we have inflation skyrocketing, the fragility of the country is still quite on the high side, looking at the fact that we're just exiting recession, technically, if we may put it mildly. Now, to deal with the current macroeconomic indices is one thing. To invest and also attract investment, both from foreign and local, that's another thing. And then we have the issues of insecurity. So irrespective of whatever we are borrowing from, if we don't have a safe economic climate, then it's not worth it at the end of the day. That's the sentiment of some people. So now let's talk about insecurity and also improving on our investment climate.
Well, the good news is that all these things are not in silos. If you have good economy, then less people will be involved in insecurity. There's something called mystery index where you look at unemployment, inflation, and those other factors. At the end of the day, if you are able to manage, that's the reason we go to school. That's the reason we have economists, we have developmental economists, accountants, and the rest of them. Put them together. But the ingredient that I feel has been lacking is sincerity on the part of government. The truth is, if you are looking for solutions, put all the eggs together. People have done it.
We already have the economic
China
advisory
is managing. They
committee.
have trillions of dollars.
We already have the
it's not
economic
about that. How much
advisory
of
team
the
and
advice?
much more.
I know Rewani is on that list. But at the end of the day, are you taking their advice? How much of the advice are you taking? Do you allow political considerations to influence or over-influence or push aside the advice that are given in concrete terms, in economic terms? These are the issues. If you are spending 1.9 trillion naira on a road to Niger that impacts our economy less than 2%, is that the best use of those funds? Those are the questions. Lagos Ibadan is important. The Apapa port is extremely important. Goods that are destined for Nigerian market are passing through Benin Republic and the rest of the adjoining nations to us. Are this the best way? How long does it take? So even if we are building a port from the ground up, how many years will it take? We have had this government for 6 years. They could face that. I'm not putting the blame squarely at the feet of this present government, but government is a continuum. If you are on the seat, it is you that we talk to. That is how it goes.
Well, thank you very much for your contribution on the breakfast show this morning, Michael Ilo. We keep our fingers crossed and hope that we have the Nigerian economy be able to pay up all of this debt, and then we have a stronger economic recovery. But all of this is also hinged on the fact that we need to have better security system and then vaccine deployment. Then the economy can open back, and then government can also cash in as much as possible. Thank you very much once again, Michael Ilo. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.